Gentlemen, we are moving from one iconic project to another. Our next speaker is Mr. Lee Karuri, who is the owner of Resorts and Cities based over here in Kenya. Resorts and Cities develops world-class golf courses throughout the country. And Mr. Karuri today will speak about the nascent tourism Eldorado in sub-Saharan Africa. Please help me welcome Mr. Lee Karuri onto the stage.
Thank you. Good evening. That was very inspiring. What we have just watched, the pinnacle. We'll be visiting you when you are still in the foundations. My name is Lee Karuri, the Executive Director or Chairman of Resorts and Cities. We are very happy to be here to share with you some ideas about the Nascent Tourism Eldorado, what the opportunities that we have ahead of us. And IDA, you are setting very good standards for all of us to experience, listen, share. We have been in South Africa twice. Last year, we were there, they invited us. And also the previous year, we were in Johannesburg, and we are here that they have found it necessary to be with us in Kenya. So, what is happening around Africa and sub-Saharan Africa is of big interest to all of us. We are developing 2 resort cities in Kenya. One is called Longonot Gate in Naivasha. The people in Kenya, some of them you know about it. We are developing an integrated city on 2,400 acres of land that will bring about a new destination for tourism, leisure, holiday homes around Africa. We are also developing a second resort city in Murang'a County called Makoyo Ridge on 1,000 acres of land that is going on. Both have extensive infrastructure facilities. They'll have hospitals, schools, and so many other facilities. We have the opportunity to be able to deliver the new golf resort cities in this country and in Africa. Now, part of what is emerging and of big interest to us is tourism, Pan-African tourists that would be available to yourselves and all of us in this region. And the Africans are traveling more in Africa for tourism than we have experienced before. This is a great opportunity for a long time. We saw our key visitors coming from Europe, the US, and other parts of the world. But now we are seeing the African people traveling more, and they create a huge opportunity for us. We are seeing the African economies and disposable incomes increasing. The growth on average, most of the countries in Africa now, is between 4% and 6% on average over the last 10 years. And we see that being sustained over the years to come. And we know that this level of growth brings much more income to investors, ordinary people around Africa, who will be able to afford holidays, business travel, tourism, and so forth. And that is a major opportunity. We have the population of Africa rising. Africa is not just rising as an economic hub, but we are also rising in terms of population, 1.2 billion about this time. The East African and the greater East Africa area, sub-Saharan Africa, is about 200 million people that are in this region. And when we look at that number of people, and they are increasing every year, that is a great opportunity to tap and educate them and provide opportunities for leisure, for travel. And recently, most of you who have been following what's happening around the free trade in Africa. In Kigali, about 2 months ago, heads of state around Africa reached a key agreement called the free trade zone for Africa, which is opening up the entire of Africa for purposes of free movement, ease of movement of goods, of services, and people. Now, it makes it easier for movement of tourists, for movement of business people across Africa. And the difficulties in terms of visa regime, difficulties in terms of travel are going to ease as we move along, as this policy is being implemented around Africa. 44 heads of state have signed to this agreement, and we see that as this is a huge opportunity for the Pan-African tourism and for this region of sub-Saharan Africa. Now, Africa, and we have listened to those who were here before, is presenting us the opportunity of the new business frontier for investment, and particularly in sub-Saharan Africa. The amount of business flow, investments flowing into this part of the world and other parts of Africa is increasing. We have seen a lot of intra-Africa trade moving up, and also investors from outside Africa coming into Africa. In Nairobi here, we have experienced increased growth of investments, and Kenya in general, and it's happening in the sub-Saharan area. And the whole movement of increased business, travel for business, is an opportunity to tie up with also tourism, business tourism, conference tourism, and also have leisure and activities around safaris, around business travel. Some of the guests here who may not be coming from Kenya have an opportunity to tie up some 1 or 2 extra days or 3 extra days for leisure, travel, safari within Nairobi, out of Nairobi, and that is the kind of integrated business, travel, and tourism that we see. So we see our project as a destination for those who are coming for business, for leisure, for sports, and they're able to connect to other parts of East Africa or Kenya. So business and conference tourism is a huge frontier that is emerging, and most of the hoteliers here are beneficiaries of that opportunity. The air transport is on the increase. We had that the connectivity to the US from Kenya, Nairobi, New York, is going to be a huge advantage for tourism. As a matter of fact, the statistics tell us now, even before that flight, that is going to be direct flights from Kenya to the US, there is a huge increase of US visitors to Kenya. And last year, the number of US visitors to this country surpassed the British. The British have been the number one in terms of numbers, but the US visitors surpassed the British last year, showing a new opportunity and interest by the US citizens around Africa and in this country. And with the connecting flights and direct flights, we see that increasing. And we have a lot of new hotels being built. That is continuing, and we are going to see more coming up in the next 5 to 10 years. As I conclude, at just a few minutes, is to say that we see a great future around the sector of tourism and hospitality for this region and for Africa. And it is up to us to take advantage and to be able to go ahead of the time and prepare for increased numbers and make it possible for business travelers, leisure travelers, and everyone who needs to come into this region or Africa to find comfortable hospitality destination, enough hotels, good quality, and we provide an experience that is memorable. And as I conclude, 2 more points. The political environment and the state of our security is stable. We have had the Somalia story, which is still within our region, but on overall, the sub-Saharan region right now is stable in terms of political stability, in terms of peace and security. And that is a good environment for business, a good environment for tourism, and our hospitality sector. So this is the time for us to be able to move ahead. The Kenyan situation was a bit volatile. It is stabilized, and we are ready to move forward, all of us. We believe that the future is great for tourism and for all of us as investors. Thank you, and we appreciate you listening.
Mr. Lee Karuri, thank you so much for sharing such a positive outlook. And I think you summarized it very well in the last concluding remarks when you mentioned that the opportunities are huge, the potential is huge. It is now up to us, the hoteliers in this ballroom right here, right now, to capitalize on the opportunities, to quote Mr. Karuri, to take it forward, to move into the future and change the landscape of hospitality in sub-Saharan Africa. I think that was a very, very interesting point. As a token of our appreciation, we would like to hand over a memento to you, and I request Mr. Ganesh Babu to come on the stage and hand over the memento to Mr. Lee Karuri.